Today I'm going to discuss how to treat acute plantar fasciitis. So most commonly people think to roll out the feet because that's where the pain's at. I think that is a good place to start, but it is by no means the solution to plantar fasciitis. So what I'm going to do is run you through a program I take my clients through that are experiencing new symptoms of plantar fasciitis, or they're just maintaining while they're still strengthening in future progressions. So I will have them roll out on a ball. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a nice release of the foot, but I would start with a calf foam roller. So I have multiple foam rollers. This one is great for the feet if you don't want to use a ball, and then just a regular foam roller. It can be any size. But what you're going to do is you're going to spend a good 3 minutes foam rolling each leg, so it is time consuming, but you really want to make sure that you're getting every area of the foot, of the leg. So what you're going to do is you're going to put one leg over the other, and you're going to start rolling from ankle up to the posterior knee. You do not want to cross the knee or go behind the knee. You have a lot of nerves and vasculature there that you don't want to irritate. So you're just going to go at a nice steady pace, and as you go you're going to rotate your leg, and whenever you find some sticky points or some painful points, you're going to just do little pulses there, or you can even pump your ankle and just put weight over that area, and then you're flossing the muscle over that pinpointed pressure, and then you return and keep going, really getting the whole leg. Okay, and then the next area that you want to foam roll that a lot of people don't think about is that anterior shin. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip over, and you're going to put same thing, just foam roll, and anytime you find a sticky point, pulse there, really make sure you're getting into it. And you want to rotate. Be sure that you don't sit directly on the shin bone. You're not going to love that, okay? All right, we'll get into foam rolling the foot in a second, but what I want to also talk about is stretching the big toe. So your plantar fascia is attached to the big toe. So when you have limited mobility, that limited extension of that big toe can actually really affect a lot of things, including gait. So how you walk, how you run is really affected if that big toe can't move. So if you stretch out that big toe, you're also going to be stretching the plantar fasciitis. The plantar fascia. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with a modified version first. I'm going to take that foam roller under my knees. I'm going to tuck my toes, and I'm going to sit back, okay? And you should feel a stretch along the bottom of your foot. And I'm just going to sit here. And if you need a little reprieve, what you can do is you can try to press your toes into the ground and then relax and go deeper into that stretch. And then as you get more comfortable, you can go ahead and take that foam roller away. And then you can really get back and sit further back on those heels, and it's going to intensify that stretch. Okay, you don't want to go to the point where you're in intensive pain, but you should feel a good stretch. So if you're feeling intensive pain, just come off of it a little bit, give yourself a break, and then go back into it. Or that's a good case to foam roll the bottom of the foot and then try this stretch. Okay, so we're going to get into that stretch, that ball roll out. I'm using a golf ball. You can use anything from a tennis ball, lacrosse ball, or that foot foam roller. And I'm just going to go up and down the foot. And I'm going to actually try to extend my toes, meaning I'm going to pull them back as I go through this. And I'm just going to methodically go around the different areas of my foot. Okay, if I find a place that's like, ooh, that really needs attention, I'll even kind of sit there and I'll flex and extend my toes over that spot while putting some pressure into that sensitive area. And then I'll find another one, do the same thing, really get into that, and then keep rolling out that foot. Once you've done the full leg, don't forget to do the other one. Even if you're not having symptoms on the other leg, chances are that due to compensation, you might start feeling the other foot if you don't address it. So do both legs, okay? So that's the foam rolling. Then you want to do a calf stretch. Okay, if you have a slant board, great. If you don't, you can use a foam roller against a wall here, and you just put your foot up against it, and you can slowly stretch into that. And you can hold this here. You can even step off a step. Okay, so get yourself a step or a curb, and you can just hold this here, or you can do little pulses, nice and slow. So pulse up, hold, and then relax back down into that stretch. So we call that a contract, relax, stretch. Sometimes it just signals to the brain that this stretch is okay, and it'll allow you to get deeper into it. The other thing you want to be avoiding of is you don't want your foot turned out. Okay, so when your foot's turned out, you're avoiding a lot of the calf stretch. So you either want to slightly turn in your foot or at least have it dead straight. So I'm going to turn it in a little bit, and you're going to feel a different stretch there. Okay, another way you can do is a dynamic calf stretch, and you can kind of step on and off that curb or that slant board and do 3 different directions of stretch. Okay, so really feeling that nice stretch in the calf. Make sure that your hips aren't open. That's another way of avoiding the stretch. So make sure that you really have that foot internally rotated and your hips stay parallel. Okay, so you're just going to feel that stretch. You're going to hang out there. You're going to find whatever version works for you. I would spend at least 60 to 75 seconds each leg stretching into that calf stretch. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually go into a hamstring stretch, because a hamstring stretch, one, your hamstrings can start taking the grunt of things if your calves and feet are tight, or vice versa, your hamstrings are tight and then it goes down to your foot. So the hamstring stretch I really like is part nerve glide, part hamstring stretch, and it's a dynamic stretch. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your foot elevated on something. Okay, this is a very mild version of it. I could even do it up on this box. And what I want to do is pull my toes back towards me. And I'm going to have, again, my hips parallel. So I'm not going to be open when I'm on this, when my foot is up. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to keep a nice straight back, and then I'm going to reach towards those toes. Try to keep a nice straight back. Come back to standing. Reach towards those toes. Come back to standing. Okay, again, if your toes are pointed, you're not going to feel the stretch in the hamstrings as much. So make sure you pull those toes back. Keep your core engaged. Back straight, and just at a steady pace, you're going to pulse forward, hold for a second, come back out of it, pulse forward, hold for a second, come back out of it. If you want to add different directions, you can reach inside the foot, come out of it, over the foot, come out of it, and then to the lateral side of the foot and come out of it. And you'll feel different stretches on the hamstring. Now, if your calves are so tight, you actually might feel the calves in that stretch more than the hamstrings, and that's okay. It's going to stretch whatever tissues are the tightest at that moment. So that is the hamstring stretch. Okay. Next is a misunderstanding of plantar fasciitis, is that it's due to tight tight calves. Okay, that might be the case, but generally it's the calves compensating for weak musculature somewhere else. So if your glutes aren't activating or aren't carrying their fair share of the load, sometimes your calves will help get that extension and push off if you're not getting those glutes engaged. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a band, and we're going to do a 3-part isometric strengthening of the glutes. Okay, what this is going to do is going to do several things. It's going to improve, honestly, your entire running gait pattern. So you're going to look more efficient. You're not going to get this hip dip. Okay, so a lot of people that have weak lateral glutes get this hip dip, and then they drop to one side. And what that does is it changes how the foot lands on the ground when you're running, and it changes how that foot's accepting weight, and it can get excess movement, which creates strain on the tissues of the foot and the lower leg. So what we really want to do is make sure that our pelvis is nice and stable when we're running, because it's going to give our feet a chance to be healthier, be happier. So again, take a mini band, and what we're going to do is you're going to put it around the knees like so. Okay, you're going to have a 1-minute timer. Each of these exercises is going to be 1 minute long, and you're going to do it each leg. Okay, so the first exercise is going to be a fire hydrant. So you're going to be on all fours, knees stacked below hips, hands stacked below shoulders, and you're going to extend and abduct that hip. Now, what you don't want to do is have that back rotate. You want to keep a nice stable back, okay? And you're just going to move from that hip. You want it as high as it goes, and this is where you're going to start the clock. You're going to hold this for 1 minute, okay? And once you've done 1 minute here, you're going to go ahead and switch sides, okay? And that's going to be your 1 minute hold there. And if you are doing this and you're following along, please pause the video each time that I give you an exercise and do it on both sides. Okay, so you're going to do that one. Then what you're going to do is you're going to come down on laying sideline. I'm still going to keep this pad here. I think it's nice. I'll kick this over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down on my side. And the first one I'm going to do is I'm going to have my knees bent, both knees. I'm going to keep my heels glued together, and I'm going to go into this clamshell. Okay, some people feel it in the hip flexor. If you feel it in the hip flexor, then your hips are either too far flexed forward or too extended. So find a position where you actually feel the lateral glute firing. You're going to keep your core engaged so that you don't start arching the back to get this movement done. You're going to hold this for 1 minute, okay? And for me, this is the hardest of the three, but different ones for different people. So hold this for a minute, go ahead and switch sides, and then you're going to do hip abductions on each side. So the hip abduction is you're going to have the bottom knee bent, top leg straight. You're going to flex your feet on the top leg, okay? And you're going to extend it behind your torso and abduct that leg up to the highest it can go, making sure you feel the hip abductors and not the hip flexors, okay? A common thing is people start to use their hip flexors and their legs will come forward, and all of a sudden they're holding it up, but they're feeling it here. So make sure that you're feeling it in the lateral glute. You keep that muscle activation for the full minute, and make sure you don't let your body kind of fade away as the minute goes on. You want to make sure that for the full minute you're at as high as the leg can go. And if you can't keep it up for a minute, start with a lighter band or no band at all, okay? So that's the third exercise that you're going to do on both legs. So that's the hip abduction series, okay? The second part of making sure that you don't have plantar fasciitis come back, and something that you can do while you're in pain, while you don't want to run, walk too much, you don't want to aggravate it further. So the hip strengthening exercises won't aggravate it, but they're going to set you up for more success later. The same goes for core stabilization. So some core activation I give people, I'll give you a few of them. And the first one is going to be a plank. And you can go ahead and keep the band on for this, but it's just a full plank. And I'm just going to keep my legs nice and straight. I'm going to keep some tension on that band, and then I'm just going to hold this here for 1 minute, okay? I really like isometric core exercises because what it does is it strengthens our core so that it stabilizes the pelvis under movement. It's not for the six-pack abs, it's for stability more so than anything else. Okay, so this is one. The second one is going to be a side plank. So you can do a modified side plank. You can even do a side plank with a clamshell or hip abduction, or you can do a full expression of hip abduction, okay? And you're just going to hold this here, ideally 30 to 45 seconds. This is a really excellent one, okay? The next one is a modified actually I shouldn't call it modified, I should call it progressive bird dog. And what we're going to start with is level 1. And you're going to be in a quadruped position, okay? And you're going to just bring your knees off the ground, okay? This is what you're going to hold for 1 minute. And you can keep the band on again. Keep pressure on that band so that you're feeling your glutes. And you're just going to hold here, okay? So in this stage of recovery from plantar fasciitis, you're not doing fancy moves. You're doing a lot of isometrics, okay? If you want to do one more exercise, then I usually give people an isometric heel raise, okay? And that's just what it sounds like. You're just going to be standing off the edge of a stair or even on the ground, and you're just going to be holding this position, okay? So long duration kind of holds, isometric holds, really help the tendons get stronger, and therefore you're going to help heal everything around that foot, because the Achilles tendon goes right into the heel, and that can also have an effect on the plantar fascia. So this is a really good one. Again, you're going for 45 seconds, 60 seconds, and you're just holding it there. You can do 1 to 2 sets of all these exercises. As you progress, you can start to do 3 sets, but at that point, you should probably start doing some more isometrics, some progressive loading. So this is the acute rehab program for plantar fasciitis. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me. Otherwise, this is a really great starting point, and everything I talked about will help you get better, but it does need to be done consistently for 2 to 3 weeks to see true progress. So, all right, I'll see you in the next video.